Morning. Where we left off, they had just finished with the eighth worm. So let's continue on to see what's going to happen. That's not a worm, yelled Billy. How can it be a worm? Geez, it must be 2 feet long. It's a worm, said Alan stubbornly. It's just like all the others. I rolled it in cornmeal and fried it. It's over 2 feet long, screeched Billy. He knew something was up. Otherwise, Joe wouldn't have come back, slouching in the doorway, pretending to be gazing up at the clouds. But Billy noticed he kept glancing at Alan and him. And Tom was peering into the window again. Something was up. Look, said Alan, I'll cut it. You can see for yourself it's a worm. There, see? Come on, eat up. We ain't got all day. Joe and me have to go to Shushan with his father. Billy poked at the huge worm with his fork. Something sure was up. He ate the piece Alan had cut, looked at the rest of the worm over carefully as he chewed. He ate another bite. He'd forgotten to dip it in the horseradish sauce. Come on, said Alan. Yeah, said Joe. Eat up, Billy. We gotta go. We'll never be able to eat that whole thing, thought Billy. I'd choke me. It's too much yuck at once. He croaked. I'll eat half. This is some sort of a ringer. There's never been a worm this long. Okay, said Alan. Then the bet's off. Suit yourself? Come on, Joe. He chickened out. Let's go. All right, said Billy, playing for time. The whole thing. You'll make yourself sick, said Alan. He's too anxious, thought Billy. What's going on? Leave him alone, said Joe. Let him eat it. It's his stomach. He's trying to cover for Alan, thought Billy. He ate another bite. Then he began to scrape the cornmeal carefully off the worm with his knife. What are you doing? Said Alan. I think I'll have it plain today. No cornmeal. That's not fair. You can't. Glue, screamed Billy all of a sudden. Glue. You glued 2 crawlers together. Geez, you bunch of lousy cheats. Tom, look at what they tried to pull. Glue. Panting, Tom bent over the plate. You're right. Jeez. Alan kicked a pail, clattering against the wall. I told you it wouldn't work, he screamed at Joe. All right, so it didn't work. You couldn't think of anything better? That's cheating, said Billy. I ought to win right now. You cheated. 15 worms in 15 days, yelled Joe. You ain't won yet. But you cheated, shouted Tom. So what? There's a picture of them pointing at the huge worm that they had ready for him. They argued and yelled, striding here and there. It's like walking back and forth about the barn, sprawling against posts, flinging up their arms, kicking walls, banging down on a pail or orange crate, and squeezing their heads between their hands. It doesn't make any difference, Joe yelled at Billy. It didn't work. You didn't fall for it. If you'd eaten the whole thing and then found out it was 2 worms glued together, then you could have claimed to win because Alan was cheating. Big mouth, shouted Alan from the horse stall, where he was kicking the slats in. Who thought it up? Not me. Who cares who thought it up? Shouted Tom. It's still cheating. A pig looked in at the door and then wandered away. Joe ran out and stuck his head under the faucet by the kitchen steps. A minute later he came running back, dripping, yelling, That's not true. What's not true? Said Billy, turning around from shouting at Alan. Whatever you said. What'd I say? Doesn't make any difference. You're a liar and a cheat, and so anything you say isn't true. You're crazy. Even Hitler or Jack the Ripper sometimes said things that weren't true. It's impossible to lie all the time. Behind them, Tom lay down on his back and said, Ugh. Alan, Joe, and Billy turned to look at him. What's the matter with you? Herg? Erg. Silence. A bird flew in and then out through a broken window in the loft. Well, said Billy. Yeah, I see what you mean. He and Alan and Joe sat down on the overturned orange crates. After a while, Joe said, Anyway, I was right. If Billy'd eaten it, it would have been cheating. But he didn't, so it's not. The bet's still on. The pig looked in at the door again. The pig's loose, said Alan. Look. Where? Said Billy. Oh, boy, come on. We got to catch it. He jumped up and the pig bolted. Ooh-wee, yelled Billy, dashing out. Tom and Joe and Alan scrambled after him. Billy slumped at the kitchen table on one elbow, pawing in his bowl of Wheaties and a spoon. His mother was washing the breakfast dishes at the sink. But why isn't it good enough to eat hot dogs for breakfast? I know nobody does. And why don't they? Oh, Billy, said his mother, stop it. Finish your cereal. Well, but a knock on the screen door. Billy's mother glanced around. Oh, hello, Alan. Joe, is your sister better, Joe? Yes, thank you. Billy can't come out until he's finished his breakfast. Would you like to wait for him on the front porch? We came to see you, Mrs. Forrester. Oh, come in. Mrs. Forrester, said Joe as Alan shut the door carefully behind them. I don't know if you knew about it already, but see, about a week ago, Alan made this bet with Billy about eating worms. If Billy could eat 15 worms, one each day, for 15 days, then, Billy, you're still not eating them. Billy stuffed a spoonful of Wheaties into his mouth. Not just worms, Mom. I began eating lots of other stuff, too. Look at me. I'm healthy. Dr. McGrath told you the worms wouldn't hurt me. But, Billy, Dr. McGrath didn't think you were going to keep on eating worms. Joe nudged Alan and grinned. Oh, Mom, if 5 worms wouldn't hit me, a few more wouldn't either. They're little worms. Besides, I bet if I... They're big worms, says Mrs. Forrester. We won't lie to you. My mother told me never to lie. Manure, said Billy. Mom, it's a bet. I told you. If I win, Alan's got to pay me $15. $50? Young man, don't you move from that chair. She swept into the front hall. Thinks, it means like tattletales, whispered Billy. But you'll see, it won't work. Alan and Joe gazed nonchalantly, just like they don't care, at the ceiling. Billy's mother's voice came from the front hall. Dr. McGrath, I'm awfully sorry to bother you again. It's such a ridiculous matter. But since I spoke to you, Billy has continued to eat worms. No, it's nothing like that. He's acting perfectly normal otherwise. Seems he's made a bet with some other boys. One every day. He has to eat 15 to win his bet. Oh, thank you, Dr. McGrath. I'm so sorry to bother. She returned to the kitchen. But no more bets after this one, Billy. Alan and Joe, don't you egg him on any more. He's far too eager to do wild things. Billy yucked silently at Joe and Alan. Alan made a rude gesture at him. Mrs. Forrester, said Joe, what we really came about is that Alan and me are going up to Lake Lauderdale today with my father to fish. And we won't be back till tomorrow night. So we wondered if you'd make sure Billy eats the worms today and tomorrow. It's not that we don't trust Billy, Mrs. Forrester. No, said Billy's mother, smiling. But it's always better if there's a referee, like Mr. Simmons says at school, to save arguments and hard feelings. We brought the 2 worms. He held up a paper bag. We boiled them already, so you can just keep them in the refrigerator. Well, said Billy's mother, this is quite a responsibility. Are you sure I'll be neutral enough? I am his mother. Yeah, we thought of that, said Joe. But we figured, well, you're usually pretty fair, and besides, parents almost never cheat kids if it's just something between kids. They're usually pretty fair until... I'm in the library, sorry guys. Until they get into it. Billy's mother laughed. And how does he eat them? Just cold-boiled? Well, we've been frying them, Mrs. Forrester. We roll them in cornmeal and then fry them like a fish. Except that Alan and me decided it's not fair to make soup out of them or chop them all up like hash or a chicken salad sandwich. He's got to eat them piece by piece. Who said? Yelled Billy. When was that ever in the rules? We said, shouted Alan. Billy jumped up, kicking his chair over. Well, then I win, because it's cheating to make up new rules in the middle. Oh, yeah? Shouted Alan. Then you lose, because anybody knows it'd be cheating to hash it up. You think you're going to weasel out of it after I've already eaten 9? Who's weaseling? You're cheating. Yeah. Boys, Billy, Alan. Silence. Please, no, Billy, No, let me speak first. I do think Alan and Joe are right. Wouldn't be fair to cut the worm all up. You can just think of some other way of fixing it. Thank you, Joe. She took the paper bag and looked inside. Whew, Billy, are you sure? Mom, you've eaten eels. You ate eels last summer in Long Island. These are just smaller. They're the same thing. Well, she put the paper bag in the refrigerator. I guess if Dr. McGrath says it's all right, now why don't you all go outside? I wouldn't go across the street with those finks, said Billy. They can... Yeah, shouted Alan. Well, who'd want to go anywhere with you either? Yeah, shouted Billy. Boys, cried Mrs. Forrester, stop it, all right? Alan and Joe, you had better go. The screen door banged behind them. Said Billy scornfully. Joe's face appeared at the screen. Thanks for saying you'll help out, Mrs. Forrester. What's for dinner? Said Billy's father, coming into the kitchen. Well, said Billy's mother, you and Emily are having hamburgers and string beans and mashed potatoes. Billy is having a fried worm. More worms? The bet's still on? Look, she took a small plate covered with saran wrap out of the refrigerator. You've eaten 9 of these already, Billy? He poked at the worms curiously. What do you do? Use a lot of ketchup and mustard? Billy nodded. And horseradish and other things, and we fry 'em. Billy's father lifted a corner of the saran wrap and smelled the worms. Helen, you ought to be able to do better than fried. Use your cookbooks. I'm not the cook. I'm just the referee. Oh, come on. Think of the challenge. He took a cookbook from the shelf under the spice rack. Let's see. Mastering the art of French cooking. He leafed through the cookbook. Here, how about poached eels on toast? Nope, said Billy's mother. It calls for chopping up the eel in little pieces, and that would be against the rules. How about spaghetti with worm balls, then? Or a savory worm pie? Creamed worms on toast? Spanish worm? Worm loaf with mushroom sauce? Wait, said Billy's mother, putting down her cooking spoon. It might just... She took the cookbook and turned to the index. Here, she read. Alastasian smothered worm. Dredge the worm with seasoned flour. Sauté in 3 tablespoons drippings until brown. Cover with sliced onions. Pour over 1 cup thick sour cream. Cover pot closely and bake in a slow oven until tender. Bravo, said Billy's father. Put the hamburgers back in the refrigerator. We'll all have worms tonight. I won't, said Emily. Ha, said Billy, grinning in the midst of chewing. Boy, Al and Joe thought they were doing me in when they came to you, Mom, but this is better than steak. It really tastes good, muttered Emily, making a face. Let me have a taste, said Billy's father. No, said his mother. Billy has to eat every bit himself. Al and Joe were very firm about that, and I'm the referee. Boy, said Billy, I don't mind if it tastes like this.